This year we would produce 7 million UAVs overall, different kinds. And it would be simply enough to kill every single Russian troops that would be trying to infiltrate Ukrainian position. Till the moment Russia accepts that they are not able militarily to overwhelm Ukraine, we attack Russian war economy by different UAVs plus some indigenous cruise missiles. The major development is Ukraine long-range strike campaign, and it is divided in two parts because people usually, when they mention it, they confuse two different campaigns, two distinct campaigns. So the one campaign is strategic strikes, everything that is about the distance of 500 kilometers from the front line, which affect Russian war economy, Russian ability to sustain this war. Predominantly, it's oil processing, oil export, military industrial complex, and recently it's this Russian analog of Amazon. And another development is Ukrainian so-called middle strike campaign. It is within the distance of 300 kilometers from the ground zero on the front line. It's more related to Russian ability to sustain its campaign over the battlefield. We try to undermine Russian ability to sustain the front line, and also simultaneously to isolate Crimea, to cut it from logistics, to make life there untenable and generate as much as leverage, while Russia simultaneously is doing its own strategic strike campaign. It targets Kyiv with ballistic missile, trying to undermine Ukrainian morale and target critical infrastructure and also military industrial complex of Ukraine too. We see interesting developments, that ability of even frontline formations to attack deeper and deeper with relatively effective but cheap munitions increase. So in 2022, Ukraine only had HIMARS munition with a range of 85 kilometers. It's Western supplied US produced weaponry with which we can attack deeper than like 35-40 kilometers from the ground zero. Now even frontline units like brigades, they have UAVs that can attack like 40, 50, 60 kilometers from the ground zero, so more than classic howitzers. And also we have this middle strike UAV, so-called, that in certain sense even superior than Western supplied munition standard one like HIMARS, like GMLRS, because their range is 200, 300 kilometers. Their warhead is more powerful and they are not jammed by electronic warfare. They are guided by Starlink. It's resistant to electronic warfare. So this is the tendency to increase the depth of the strike and means proliferate, and thus it's easy for both sides to attack deep. And this is the tendency we have. So Ukraine pioneered a number of technologies. So we have now our advantage in air defense by means of UAVs, and we also have advantage in unmanned ground vehicles that do logistics and medical evacuation, and also already mentioned the middle strike campaign ability to target specific Russian sites at the range of 150, 200, 300 kilometers with relatively cheap, effective munitions. So these are the areas where Ukraine has an advantage, and it would take a lot of time for Russia to close the gap. Neither side is able to overwhelm the other. So this is a tendency we've seen since 2022. So neither side has military capability to quickly impose its will. So what Ukraine managed to do, Ukraine managed to find a recipe to address Russian battlefield strategy, to decrease effectiveness of Russian battlefield strategy as we've seen in 2024, 2025. Thus, tempo of Russian advances in eastern Ukraine decreased this year if we compare with the last year or 2024. But neither side possessed military, just strictly military capability to both quickly advance on a battlefield. It's largely stalemate. A lot of UAVs that do reconnaissance, that do strikes, that make it impossible to do maneuver warfare. While simultaneously both sides try to undermine each other using strategic strikes. So we attack Russian war economy by different UAVs plus some indigenous cruise missiles. And the Russians also attack our rare areas, critical infrastructure, hoping that if you like undermine the rear, so it would be more difficult to sustain the front line. But this tendency has been present for some time. So neither has an upper hand, but Ukraine has slightly better situation because Russia want to attain more ambitious goals, political one, than they have military capability and then they have resources. So they want Ukraine to basically to surrender, to withdraw from northwestern part of Donetsk region, to impose limits on its sovereignty, to impose limits on its sovereign defensive capability. But Russia doesn't have neither power nor quality to impose its will in short order of time. While Ukrainian ultimate goal is more limited one. We just want to deny Russia ability to dictate the terms of the settlement. And in this case, we are in relatively better position because our political goal, which is more limited, is better aligned with means we have at hand and support we receive from our partners. For some time ago, both Ukraine and its Western partners, we subscribed to a more limited reading of what is Ukrainian victory. Unlike in 2022, 2023, when it was like thought that Ukrainian victory is recovering all temporary lost territories, at least after 24th of February 2022, now it's about preserving what territory we now hold, arresting Russian advances, maximum damage on Russian grouping of forces, and making Russia accept that Ukraine is a sovereign and independent democratic state that doesn't sacrifice its security, its sovereignty for the sake of a ceasefire as Russia is trying to do. So it's a more limited goal. It's denying Russia victory. It's preventing the scenario where Russian demands are accepted by Ukraine, like surrendering 15% of the Donetsk regions they do not control but claim to be part of Russia, and also like no NATO option for Ukraine, and also imposing severe limits on Ukraine defense forces, both in quantity and quality, that would make Ukraine defenseless. So both Ukraine and its partners were pursuing like more limited objective, unlike 2022, 2023. They have bigger warhead because standard attack UAV, which use internal combustion engine, not jet engine, it carry relatively small warhead. It's like 50, 75 kilograms. And the damage is not that great. First, a lot of UAVs are intercepted. They are slow moving. And second, even though that they are successful to damage the target, damage is relatively mild still. So it gives Russia time to adjust, adopt, repair. So the warhead of the standard ballistic missile might be half a ton or even a ton of TNT. It flies faster, so it gives you much less time to intercept the projectile. And you need very capable system to intercept the projectile. Russians have relatively little amount of surface-to-air missile complexes that are capable of intercepting ballistic missiles. So precisely the same situation as with Russian ballistic missiles versus Patriot surface-to-air missiles supplied by US. Only Patriot can intercept this, so Russia would find the same difficulty. So it's the payload, it's the swiftness, and it's a relatively small amount of air defense means that can effectively counter a ballistic missile. Till the moment where Russia agreed to cease this senseless war, we can't say that we are effective. So it's a work in progress. Our ultimate goal is not destruction for the sake of destruction. Our ultimate goal is to drive Russia to the conclusion that keeping with this war is senseless. So the fact that maybe we are not as quick as imposing all this cost on Russia doesn't mean that we should stop this campaign. But given the limits we already discussed, it would take some time, and our ultimate measurement of success is not the number of warhouses we destroy. It's only the part of the process. So till the moment Russia accepts that they are not able militarily to overwhelm Ukraine, then we can say we are successful. So definitely we want to find some other targets along with oil processing, oil export, oil pumping, military industrial complex that would drive Russian society to the conclusion that sticking with this war is waste of resources, it's futile stuff. But otherwise, still there is a principal political decision out of the Kremlin to stop this war. We can't say we are successful. First, it's constant technological innovation. So it's investing in research and development, prototyping, innovation testing. It's investing in UAV operators itself, because no matter how good a specific system, it's operated by human beings. So it's a very complex endeavor. It's about both technological innovation and tactical dimension, like training of those people who operated. It's Ukrainian asymmetric advantage, because overall Ukrainian UAV operators are better, despite all the like Russian advances, improvements, and that's it explains that okay, Russia can call another round of mobilization, but having one-way infantry for mid grinder, it's in one stuff, but you need to have a motivated, qualified people with higher education to operate UAVs. So having more people is simply not enough. And there are reports that for Russia to scale up like Rubicon is difficult, precisely because there is short supply of qualified people, motivated people. So, but Ukraine with proper investment, with proper, again, Ukrainian asymmetric advantage is that we have this horizontal links, we have direct connection between people who employ these UAVs and people who produce it. Unlike Russia, which is hierarchy, we are horizontal, which means a quicker response loop. And it gives us also an advantage. And entities which produce UAVs, they are interested financially to improve them. Because if your product doesn't deliver, then there is no rationale for specific unit to procure it. And you would be uncompetitive. So these advantages, plus, again, investment in training, would ensure that Ukrainian advantage in UAVs would keep up, basically. And for Russia, it would be difficult to close the gap that is evident in terms of number of capabilities and how we employ it. It tells us that we see decreased utility of Russian way of war. So for them to rely simply on the mass, to rely on their advantage on manpower doesn't deliver. So Ukraine managed to adjust. Ukraine simply now produce more even tactical attack UAVs than Russia field infantry. So this year we would produce 7 million UAVs overall, different kinds, but 50-60% of this 7 million is battlefield tactical UAVs. And it would be simply enough to kill every single Russian troops that would be trying to infiltrate, to bypass Ukrainian position. So the fact that now Russia suffering more casualties than they are recruiting, and they are not advancing as quickly as they did, so the tempo decrease, is another good evidence that Ukraine adjusted and Ukraine managed to counter Russian battlefield strategy as we know it out of 2024-2025. He is credited with being open-minded, he's credited to be humane, but no matter how you're open-minded and humane, it doesn't change the nature of the war. That you give orders to people to risk their life, and some still pay an ultimate price for Ukraine. He has quite a lot of challenges because it's a front line, 1,000 kilometers plus. It's still core reform not fully implemented. It's mobilization still a challenge. We still try to find a formula that would be socially acceptable and sustainable, that would generate on a sustainable basis proper manpower. He's not a miracle maker. We need to stop thinking in Napoleonic terms that just one person can solve all the problems. And Commander-in-Chief is a very powerful person, but he doesn't control all of the leverages. And fighting the war of exhaustion, it's whole of the state, whole of the society effort plus partner support. We're dependent on our partners in terms of funding, intelligence, weaponry, and it also imposes some limits on Ukraine. So these are the situations that new commander-in-chief would find himself. It's one of the most unenviable positions right now in the world, to be the commander-in-chief of Ukraine Defense Forces. It's very I don't know how to properly say it. It's a position, very reputable one, very tailored one, and it's It's quite a telling scene that everyone in Europe, in North America, is tracking all these changes in Ukraine about leadership. It's how Ukraine is important, but simultaneously, no matter how good person you are, how you are experienced, it doesn't change the demands of the war of attrition and all the challenges we face right now. They still quite big one.